That's our cue. My name's Andrea Boykowicz. I'm here from Oakland Planning and Development Corporation. We're the registered community organization for the section of Oakland where this evening's projects are located. This is a development activities meeting for two different projects. One is the proposed multifamily dwelling called the Parkman in North Oakland, and another, the house modification at 252 Parkman Street. Sorry, the Parker and the Parkman. I'm going to get confused about that this evening. So with us are representatives of each of these projects who are going to present. This is an opportunity for review, questions, explanations for the public. This is not a this is not a formal hearing. There is nothing being decided this evening. The purpose of this meeting is intended for information. A recording of this meeting is going to be posted to Oakland Planning and Development Corporation's website and will be available for the public to peruse and to submit comments. With us this evening also is Christian Umbach, who is the senior planner for Oakland, among other neighborhoods in the city. Christian, in his capacity with city planning, is also obliged to produce a report that gets submitted to the review boards. There are two different commissions that are going to be reviewing this evening's material, and Christian's report does get submitted as part of this exercise. Christian, did I get everything? Is there anything that I needed to?
I think we're all good.
Okay, sweet. So thank you. So starting us off, the Parker, the Hudson Group is going to be presenting, and I would ask if you could please just introduce yourselves, and you're welcome to share screen.
Hey, Andrea, really quickly, is there a dial-in number? Kelly can't get her microphone to work for the Zoom link here.
Yeah, hold on just one second. Sorry. One moment. I'm going to pause the recording. I've just resumed the recording, and I believe we are all back on track. So, Hudson. Kelly, if you'd like to present, you're welcome to.
Okay, yeah. Are we screen sharing? Because I'm going to try to share the screen.
Yes, you may
I can probably screen share. Yep.
Can everybody see that?
Nope, not yet.
Nope.
There we are.
Got you now.
Okay, so I apologize again. So my name is Kelly Coey. I'm Director of Development for Hudson Companies, and I think, unless you've done introductions, because I was trying to fumble around and get online here, we've got Dan Robinson from our company, and we've got Jack Williams on the line, who is our architect. So it's hard for me to, I guess you want me to just start in on this presentation then here that we have on the screen?
Yes, please. A summary of what it is that you're proposing and a description of the project. And then we can talk a little bit about the variances that you guys are going to be requesting.
Okay. So this is the presentation for the Parker, and I'm just going to jump to, we are proposing a multifamily 12-story building in the Oakland district. The lot size is roughly 17,082 square feet. The footprint is roughly 14,198. And the upper floor footprint is 13,635. The number of units is 166 units, and the inclusionary units are 10%, which equates to 17. The vehicle parking will be required will be 117 spaces, and with our reduction for bike parking, we will have 56 protected bike spaces within the building. The location, here's an aerial, and I'm going to zoom in very quickly here. This is Baum, this is Melwood, this is Gold Way, and there are 3 parcels here. There's 1, 2, 3. The 3 parcels encompass the site for the Parker, and the 3 parcels will be consolidated. This is currently 419 Melwood, which is the Julian that is currently under construction. And then across the street here, this is 450 Melwood, and this will be the site that we will be utilizing for the parking of the project. This is a picture, excuse me. This is a picture of the 3 parcels. This is the 435 building. This is the blank parcel in the center. And this is the Steel City building, which is 445. And I'm going to let Jack take it over from here on the zoning. And Jack.
Sure. So just a summary of the zoning. The brown area that you see here, which is really the Melwood corridor as it extends north, is zoned UI for urban industrial. There's residential is permitted in the urban industrial district, and for buildings that are primarily multi-unit residential, there are some allowances for an increased FAR and an unlimited height, provided that we meet the conditions of the special exception. So we're not looking for a variance, but we are looking for special exceptions related to the height and the FAR, and then also our off-site parking that would be located across the street. So as Kelly had mentioned, the lot area is about 17,082 square feet. And that allows us with the 10-to-1 FAR to have an allowable total square footage of over 170,000 square feet. And with our 12 stories, we'll be under the 170,000 square feet. The details of the special exception for the multifamily residential we have outlined at the bottom of this slide. I imagine that you're already somewhat familiar with this, but we can go over it in a little bit more detail. So if 75% or more of the building is used for multifamily residential, the floor area ratio is extended from 4-to-1 to 10-to-1. And then it's provided the following conditions are met. So we cannot be within 200 feet of a residential zone property. So if you look at the zoned map above, the residential zone properties kind of surround the area. The sort of orange area is residential, and that's really the closest residential area, but we're not within 200 feet of a residential property line. So we'd meet that requirement. We should not create detrimental visual impacts and should not be incompatible with the surrounding built environment and use patterns. Development will not adversely affect the safety and convenience of residential neighborhoods or pedestrian circulation in the vicinity. Would not create detrimental operational impacts to the area, such as noise, vibrations, etc. Would not create detrimental impacts on the future development of parcels in the vicinity of the proposed site, and would not create detrimental impacts to the property values of the parcels in the area. You can go to the next slide, Kelly. Thank you. And then, as I mentioned, the off-site parking is also a special exception. There are some criteria for off-site parking. Those requirements are to be located with 1,000 feet of the site. This parking would be located literally across the street. I think Melwood is a 50-foot right-of-way, if I remember correctly. So that parking would be accessed within about, well within 100 feet of the front door. The parking would be located in the same or less restrictive zoning district as the subject property. As we could see in the map previously, that parking would be located in the same zoning district as the subject building, and record an off-street site parking agreement with the property owner. So the Hudson Companies is in the process of purchasing that building and is intending to redevelop that building as another residential structure. So they would set up a parking arrangement with that building under their ownership. With regard to the inclusionary housing overlay district, Kelly already had touched on this. 10% of our units shall be inclusionary, median income requirements of 80% of the average median income. For our 166 units, that'd be 16.6 units, or rounding up 17 units. So we would identify 17 units to be part of the inclusionary standards in the overlay district. And then we included a sample, or the example floor plan of the first floor. So the orientation of this has Melwood towards the bottom of the plan. So that's Melwood Avenue. And then towards the top of the plan is Goldway at the top. And we've tried to orient this building in sort of a very traditional way of some of the older apartment buildings in the North Oakland area. So we have a motor court drop-off in the front where the front entrance is. So we don't really see, people driving their own cars in here. This would be really more for rideshare deliveries, meal deliveries, that kind of thing. And then the pedestrian entrance in the vestibule in the center. And then to activate that street face, we have the public amenities for the building facing the street front. So there's a fitness center on the right in the orange. And then we have what we're calling an event space. And that's not an event space for the public, but it's an event space for the residents of the building. So it's a space that they could sign out for like a birthday party or a baby shower or something like that. And so that's on the first floor. And then there's some other miscellaneous spaces off the lobby, like a lounge, the rental offices, the mail room, some code required things like fire command center. And we would locate our bike parking on this level as well. Then we've pushed all the services to Goldway. So along the back in Goldway, you've got Duquesne Light transformer rooms, off-street loading areas, so the upper left side. We've got our electric rooms, generator room, fire rooms, and then our trash and service rooms sort of over to the right. And part of this is to really try to restrict a lot of traffic off of Goldway. So you'd have daily trash pickup or maybe weekly trash pickup from that trash room, and then loading for when people might move in and move out. But that's really about the extent of traffic, regular traffic on Goldway. This slide is just looking at how people would access the site just in the context of the overall Oakland area. So Melwood is running across the middle of the street. You can see North Center Avenue to the upper part, which eventually turns into Bigelow Boulevard, and the Goldway sort of running where you see the loading and trash decals. So the building is shown sort of generically in cyan, with the main entry in that motor court that we talked about. And we see most people arriving really at the light at Center and Melwood. And they would come in, and if it's a ride share, they'd be dropped off at the motor court. Cars would come in, the motor court drop off, and then it'd probably most likely return to the light over at Center. Or if somebody was going to park in the garage located at 450, they would come down Melwood from the light and go into the parking garage, and then exit the parking deck across the street and go into the building. And then, as we mentioned before, loading and trash are located off of Goldway. Goldway is a pretty narrow service street. A lot of backs of buildings face it. It'd be our expectation that in all likelihood, trash pickup would involve a trash truck coming from the light at Center down Melwood, going up, I think it's Denver Street, making a left onto Goldway, picking up the trash, and then exiting back onto to Center Avenue. Next slide, Kelly. For departures, and what we mean by departures would be like sort of daily traffic for people commuting to work, primarily, and then other sort of more recreational departures. People would be leaving from the motor court, either crossing the street to get to the parking lot, or being picked up by a rideshare program in that motor court and heading most likely to the light over at Center Avenue. In the case that they might be going north, there's a chance that maybe they would cycle around down to Denver Street and up onto Goldway. But I imagine most people would take advantage of the light just for ease of exiting. And these are some very preliminary elevations of the subject building. These are meant to mimic the materials that are on the adjacent Julian project. So the building would be entirely masonry on the outside. The first floor is an elevated level that would be clad in a cast stone similar to limestone. And then the rest of the building would be clad in face brick, full white on the upper levels, in a sort of gray beige kind of color with black anodized windows and storefronts. Next slide. This is the rear elevation of the building along Goldway. So same idea here with the limestone looking base and the brick up above, black anodized windows. And then we have our service garage doors for both trash and the off-street loading areas, as well as some vault doors and some exiting doors onto Goldway. This is a perspective. What you see in the foreground here is the proposed project with the motor court, the Parker, and then just in the distance beyond off to the left, you can see the Julian project, which is currently under construction. This is just another perspective looking slightly from the other angle. You can see the Julian's ghosted out a little bit, but the two buildings are really meant to be sympathetic and complementary to one another, with a similar streetscape design for very consistent pedestrian experience going up and down Melwood. And we've also included some preliminary plans that are part of the Parker. So these are a little bit more technical in nature, probably a little bit harder to read in this format, but what we're showing here is over on the upper left side is the three properties here. So grayed out to the upper left is the Julian. That's a 10-story apartment building currently under construction. That building has parking integrated into it. It goes down about 3 levels. Then to the right of that, you can see the proposed 12-story apartment building, which is the Parker, and the subject parcels listed there for that building. And then south of that is the 450 building. That's the UPMC, or formerly UPMC office building. It's currently mostly vacant to be redeveloped, and it has a structured parking deck and some surface parking of approximately 153 spaces.
Yeah.
And we already talked about sort of the ground floor layout, so I don't think we'll go over that again. Do you want to leave time for any questions? We could cycle through the rest of the drawings quickly.
Can I just interrupt for one quick question? Sorry.
Sure.
Whether the building across the street that contains the surface, the auxiliary lot that you are going to be using for these
Correct.
things, whether the conversion of the existing 2-story office building that is there into residential units is considered part of the same project, or if it is an entirely separate project.
So I think we need to get a little bit of clarity from the zoning department. As we understand it, that project would have to be done in concert with this one, but because they're separate projects and separate addresses, they would be permitted separately. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's as much as we understand it about this time.
I'm mostly interested in terms of the number well, A, the total number of spaces that both buildings would require, but then also the number of inclusionary units, whether the total number of units to be produced as this is 166, or if it's, what would that be, 195? And I'm just kind of, or sorry, I'm not sure if I did my math correctly there.
Sure,
Um,
sure. So I think because the buildings would be permitted separately and the only thing that they're dependent on would be the parking, I think, and we'd have to get clarity from, I think, the folks at zoning about this, the redevelopment of the 450 building, the determination of those inclusionary units would be dependent on that unit count independently. That building, the way that we have it laid out right now, would have 29 units in it. I don't know off the top of my head how many inclusionary units that would include.
That would be 3 then, if it is in fact actually 29 units. I had understood from the previous conversation that we had with Hudson that the plan was to convert it to 15 units, which would have been below the threshold if it had been considered a separate project. And so I was mostly interested to know if there was a plan or if there was an intent to sort of develop them in concert with each other, whether or not then the combined total would be the relevant number when looking at how many inclusionary zone units would be produced as a result. So
I see.
that's okay. Fine to not know, just thought I'd ask.
Sure. This is just going into a little bit more detail on how the parking spaces would be allotted. Basically, because of access at the street level, everything on the upper level of the parking area, save for some handicap units, would be allotted to the parker, and all of the 450 Melwood parking stalls would be located on the lower level, with the balance of the parker stalls rounding out the lower level. And we already talked about the first floor of the Parker, so I don't think we need to go over that again. Go to the next slide. This is generally the layout of all the upper floors. So we have a mixture of studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. The bulk of the units are 1 bedroom, 1 bath units. You can see in the pink, that's the 3 bedroom, 2 bath. There's sort of a cerulean, sort of light blue-green. In the upper left corner is 2 bedroom, 1 bath. And in the lower 2 ends, there are some 2 bedroom, 2 bath. And this floor plan repeats on the upper levels. This is just another upper level plan, and then the roof plan. The building would have a reflective low slope roof, most likely EPDM. And then black and white versions of the elevations. So again, stressing the materials, we'd have aluminum windows and sort of a black anodized finish, a cast stone veneer at the base for the first story that would be very indicative of limestone, with a gray, sort of off gray color brick on the floors above. Front elevation. And then this side elevation where you see the blank areas of wall, these match up with the portions of the adjacent Julian project, where there's currently a blank firewall that sits at the property line. This building basically mirrors that. So these blank areas that you see wouldn't necessarily appear blank once the building is built, because they would match up to the areas of the building on the Julian that are at the property line. And those are the exhibits that we have prepared, and we're happy to take any questions.
I'm gonna start off with a couple of questions here concerning the number of beds then, and the sort of target market for the units that you're producing here. obviously, most people are acquainted with the fact that there's a very high demand for student-oriented housing in this area, but there's also the potential for some professional housing. And the question I would have would be like, which of these markets are you planning to really target with what you're producing here?
Kelly, I'd throw that question over to you.
Yeah, and this is where, Dan, if you can join in on this answer, since Jonathan wasn't able to join us. But I think I think this is mostly professionals. I'm not saying there would not be some students. There would be some graduate students. And I don't have the market study up in front of me as far as the breakdown goes. But I think with this being the meds and eds corridor, I think this is intended to be a combination.
Yeah,
Do you
I
have
would
a
agree
count?
with that. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I would agree with that. It's mostly targeted at young professionals, residents, people working at the University of Pittsburgh, and then definitely would be some crossover. It's not marketed as student housing, but it would likely have students in the building.
Completely understandable. The 166 units, then, do you have a bed count for what it is that you're producing?
Ooh, I don't have that at my fingertips. I could probably do the math, although I don't know how quickly.
Okay. I was told there would be no math. um, we've also, well, maybe while you're doing the math, we've had three unrelated inquiries in the last month or so of people wanting to know when the Julian is going to be finished. And with some complaints about the disruption that the construction has had for access to the neighborhood, and some of the mobility constraints that people have been working with. And so I was wondering if you could kind of talk a little bit about your expected staging or scheduling of these two projects in such a way, is it basically the case that this whole block area is going to have been under construction for 4 continuous years, or how are you thinking this is going to work?
This is Kelly again. I think, and Dan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Julian is slated to be completed in the summer of 2025. And I believe that this particular project, we are targeting to be wrapped up with most permits and approvals by January or February of 2025. And then my guess is we would break ground for construction sometime that spring, summer of 2025.
And you'd expect that it would take how long to build?
I'm going to say roughly, Jack, is it a 2-year construction schedule or 18 months?
I think it was closer to 18 months based on the Julian.
Yeah, so roughly then another 18 months from summer of 2025.
The end of 2026?
Correct.
Everything, right?
Correct.
Okay. And what kind of a traffic study have you done here? I recall that when we reviewed the Julian project with you, there was a lot of questions about, the traffic flow, and Jack, I appreciate the explanation you were giving earlier about entrance and exits, but then we're more than doubling the number of people now with this project, and we haven't yet had the opportunity to see how the Julian residents are, whether their traffic demand, if you will, is as anticipated. And so I'm just kind of curious to know if you are figuring them into your calculations about the amount of traffic that is going to be in this close little area.
Yeah, so I think, and any one of my team members can stop me if I'm wrong, We're in the process right now with our engineers of working on the traffic memo. So I know that we had our pre-app meeting, and then we had a call with Domi to talk about that and what was required. So I think it's going to be a traffic memo that's going to be required, and they are currently working on that piece of the study. So I don't have a definitive answer for you on that, but I'm sure that they're going to be taking, being there's existing parking already, the parking is already there. I think that'll have a significant impact on the memo. But I don't have an answer for you yet as far as when that's going to be complete. They're in process right now of working on that.
So also the traffic flow that you were exhibiting there was anticipating everybody would be exiting onto Baum. And there's some concern, especially from our neighbors to the north in Polish Hill, that a number of people, in order to avoid sort of navigating that turn onto Baum and the lighted traffic along Craig and Bigelow, would probably opt to sort of take a shortcut through on Gold Way, sort of to get to that intersection with Heron at Bigelow if they're headed downtown. And so there's some concern about that. Obviously, those are tinier residential streets, and additional traffic is noticeable and not desired. And I was just kind of curious to know if you had looked at that as a desire line, and or if you had any comments or suggestions about ways in which that could be discouraged.
Certainly. So I think this project in particular would far less encourage that, only because the parking is located on Melwood. With the Julian project, the main parking garage entrance is on Gold Way.
Right.
So, if you just think about people's notions of convenience, I think you're going to get less, and this is all anecdotal, but I think you're going to get less people taking the Gold Way artery to Heron, just because of the proximity of the light and the fact that you're already pulling out onto Melwood, whereas with the other project, you're pulling out onto Gold Way already. So you almost have to go out to either Center or if you want to brave the narrowness of the street to Heron with the Julian project, but with the access being off of Melwood, and being so in such close proximity to that light, and to a fairly speedy thoroughfare, quite honestly, to get to downtown. At least in my mind, I don't think the Gold Way quote shortcut to the long light at Heron would necessarily prove as tempting.
Okay.
And I did get that bed count for you also, just to circle back, 199.
Okay. Thank you. I guess those are the main questions that I had, were about disruption of the construction, the traffic flow, and the timing of the project. Those are the things that I had clocked up. Does anyone else have any other questions? I know that it isn't part of your slide deck here, but I was wondering if by any chance you had a rendering showing the elevation in context. So like from some distance away, like what the building actually looks like.
Oh, it's a good question. We don't have anything like that prepared, like sort of like a composite street elevation.
Right, that's what I meant. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, sorry. No, we don't. Although it is something we could certainly prepare. It's a difficult vantage point to get because of the way the street is. Even just taking pictures of the short buildings on the site, it's difficult to capture them from the street view. There's not a great viewing angle, but it's certainly something we could prepare a composite street elevation.
Yeah, even from the street view section of it, because I know that you have the whole elevation of the building, and then you have like a close up of the entrance and so forth. But the street is relatively narrow, and you know, most people's impressions of what it looks like or what kind of a wall it's going to produce, you know, it's hard to convey with just that kind of a drawing. So
Sure.
if that's something that you have available, we'd love to be able to post that. Yeah, like you'd have to be basically like half a mile away in order to be able to see this particular view, like, because you're never going to be that far back.
Sure.
So, okay. Do you have a time or a schedule for your hearing? Or is there in fact actually a hearing, given that this is just a special exception and not actually a variance that you're requesting?
So there is still a hearing. The process is very similar, even though there's not a variance. So there'll be a ZBA hearing. I think we're trying to finalize that date right now. Kelly, maybe you want to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. We are trying to get on the June Board of Zoning Appeals hearing, and we just were contacted by the city for that potential date. And I think that would be June 20th is what we're going to target.
Christian, I was wondering if I could impose on you to explain just a little tiny bit about how the zoning board sort of calculates or estimates what the potential negative impacts would be, meaning the special exception is granted if there, you know, if the project meets certain criteria, but you know, there's a little bit of room for some subjectivity in the evaluation of those criteria. And so I was wondering if you had any insights to offer about how that works.
So personally, I haven't seen a project go through this process in kind of the Oakland context, so I don't have any anecdotal experience. I think the one difference between the variants is, you know, they're trying to prove a hardship, that the property is unique and they need an exemption from certain standards. This is rather providing an exception to the base standards and allowing it as long as the impacts aren't exceeding a certain threshold. And I would agree there is some subjectivity, and so we'll have to see how the board assesses that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No worries.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this presentation, and we will have, as I said, the recording of this meeting is going to be up on our site, and we will have these and any other materials that you would like to be able to exhibit in advance of the zoning board's hearing, possibly in June, and we'll keep everybody apprised.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And up next, we are going to have presentation of 252 Parkman. And Kathy, are you going to be the one who is presenting?
Yes, I am. So I don't know where to start with all of these different icons that are showing. Should I just click on everything?
Well, first you can share your screen and see what happens. But yeah, maybe just a description of what it is exactly that is being proposed.
Okay. Well, I am going to begin with the photos of the existing building. Now, this is a single family home in Shinley Farms. We had put together a presentation a while back for an addition, and we're back now because the homeowners have discovered that it's just out of their budget. So we're paring the work down considerably. It's just consisting of changing out the front door and portico and adding a second floor bathroom right where the portico is. That entire addition for the first floor, we're just building up from there for the addition, and that will show on the presentation. A lot of information was shared on the last meeting, so I don't know if you really want me to go through any of what I discovered. I did discover that there was no architect of record for this particular house compared to a lot of the other homes in the neighborhood. So that was a bit of a dilemma, but the house was built in 27, and then the addition or the remodel that you can tell is from the 1950s.
Yeah.
So this is the front of the house on one side, and then I took this shot over here as well. This bathroom will be basically encompassing the fireplace there, that chimney, and then going all the way to the corner of the house over here. And what we propose doing is just adding clay tile, taking the existing clay tile off, putting on the new addition roof, and adding any kind of tile that we need that will match. So the design plans, which I will show you right here, is this is the one that matters the most right here. And I also have a specification sheet from the iron door manufacturer that I can show you. But the portico is basically just going to be a replacement, you know, the roof of it with the molding will be a little bit larger than the one that we have. There will be no, you'll see it on the floor plan, there will be no curve to the front of it. It will just be a straight portico with a very low sloped roof. And then the addition of the bathrooms just goes right on the exterior wall to the first floor. And there's going to be 2 windows that are Anderson windows, probably the 400 series, but they're going to be matching the existing windows. So all of the finishing all of the finishing materials for the exterior are just going to match what's existing there to the best of our ability. Okay. I wanted to okay, so I guess the floor plan would help. So this is the first floor up here that shows the replacement of the door and the new portico, and I have rebuilt steps going down to the driveway here. And the again, you know, the columns will be very similar of size and everything from the existing. And then on the second floor, we're showing the roof of the portico and the addition, what it, you know, and what it will intend to be. The roof is going to stay in line with the shape and the slope of the existing roof that we can, but to save on costs, we're going to, on the backside over here, you can see there's a valley that comes down at where the 2 roofs meet, and then we'll slope it down to meet with a gutter system.
Sorry,
The
can I just explain? I'm sorry. So the addition has its own gable.
The addition has its own gable. In order for the roof to meet the existing roof, there are 2 heights to this roof. So this peak right here is higher than this peak right here. And if we try to create a roof system that meets these 3 roofs together so that there's no valley, what that does is ends up creating a flat roof right here. And with the clay tile roof with a flat roof, it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't be sound. So the solution was to just create it in such a way where it has this valley here that will slope out towards the exterior wall, and then we'll just, you know, put it into the gutter system from there. But that was the most cost-effective way for us to do it, but it doesn't affect the front facade. So the front facade, it stays pretty much in line with what the style of the house is right now anyway. So the last thing I wanted to show you had to do with, if I can pull it up here. I have to pull this down where I can see it. Hopefully. Okay, something's in my way. I'm trying to get over to, can you see my internet screen here?
Well, yes, we can see that you have the Anderson Windows
Well,
site.
I have a couple of other tabs that are being covered by this thing, and I don't know how to get rid of that or move it so I can get to those other tabs. Is there a way to do that?
You can move your internet screen such that it is a little bit smaller and
Oh, okay. It wasn't clicking at first. That was what was worrying me. Sorry about that.
not at all.
Let me see. I have oh, here it is. Well, okay. It's not what I expected, but this is the specification sheet for the door that will be replacing the existing doors right now. They're iron and they will come with 2 side lights, and these doors will be 36 inches each, and then it's approximately 9 feet tall. So that's the door. And then as far as the windows going above, go away. Well, it is large for some reason. I don't know why, but it's your typical 400 series Anderson window. But what if the homeowners go with the Anderson, or if they go with another manufacturer, the intent is to make sure that they match the existing windows. And then as for the brick, this is the one that I chose before. They had the closest thin brick that would match the existing. So I believe it was this medium iron spot, or it was the red blend, one of those two that we had picked. But they met, it's the closest that we could come to the existing. And then as far as any remaining clay tiles that are needed to finish the roof, the best manufacturer that I was able to find to match these clay tiles are almost a custom color. They're sort of blue. So this one was this company has custom colors that they can match them pretty closely. So as for any other finishing touches, it's basically replacing in like kind. I think that's pretty much it as far as what we plan to do for the addition, but if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask them.
I don't have any specific questions, Mike. I guess the question that I would ask is, have you had communication with the Shenley Farms resident associations about the changes in plans?
They are in communication with us from the previous design project, but I have not reached out to them about this particular one. Or this new change is what I'm saying. They have been a part of the conversation about the work going on in this project since 2 years ago.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't think I have any questions. I think you covered the materials and the plan for compatibility here. The footprint of the house is not changing. You're simply filling in a void on the second floor, if you will, matching finishes throughout and replacing the door. And it doesn't seem as though I don't have any questions with regards to the compatibility there. Again, we're going to place the recording of this meeting and the drawings that you have here and the photographs Cassie on our website, and it will all be available for people to review and comment.
Okay, so I will reach out to Shenley Farms then, tomorrow, I suppose.
We can also, I've also, I sent an email today just to sort of remind people that we did have this meeting, but I will also, I'll reach out directly as well, make sure that everybody's aware and can review what you've presented and let me know if you have any questions. So,
Okay, all right, thank you. I guess I'll just push stop share.
please, thank you.
You're welcome. And I guess we can leave then.
Is there anybody else have any, nothing else to add? No one else has any other questions? Great. Thank you all very much for your time. Hope you all have a lovely evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right. Thank you.